Mathieu Mireault. Did I get that right?
That is my name, absolutely.
All right. Thanks for coming to the show today. I really appreciate you coming on Inner Edison. A lot of people aren't going to know who you are unless they actually read the bio about what we did for you, right? So I know who you are, but kind of explain to people how you kind of got started in this space.
Absolutely. So that is a great question. I used to work in a cubicle when I was in my mid-20s. I hated it. It was a safe job. I don't know if your listeners know, but there's a slogan in the entrepreneur world that says, there's the three killer S's are salt, sugar, and salary. Because once you have a salary, you are confined to, a certain level of happiness, but you're really, it's like kind of a golden prison. That's where I was. I had my whole life set up in front of me when I was 25, and I would stay up all night thinking about how dreadful all of this was. Going from somebody who was young, passionate, having full of ideals and dreams, to somebody who lived in a cubicle with neon lights and working for a bank. So
I was going to ask you what you did, because at that time you worked for a bank.
Yeah, that's okay. That's it, working for a bank. So afterwards, one of my friends came to me with an idea. He had excessive sweating on his hands, and he never said it to anybody, but he said that he found a solution for himself, and that it cost him $20. And he said to me, you know what, I'm going to revolutionize the way that people treat their excessive sweatings. Do you want to hop on? And I was like, what do I have to lose? This prospect of a life that is, kind of very beige and kind of boring, or the prospect of, helping thousands of people all across the world treat the problem that they have, the biggest problem of their life. So it was an easy decision. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a home to pay. I didn't have any types of bills. So I said, let's do it. And 5 years later, I'm here. I'm super happy because we have helped already more than 100,000 people treat their excessive sweating. And it was a crazy adventure getting here. But I cannot be more happy to have taken that decision.
All right. So how many people have excessive sweating? Do you know the
percentage? It's about 5% of the general population has excessive sweating. Excessive sweating usually is it's defined by sweating more than needed to regulate your body temperature. So somebody who's sweating even though they're in air conditioner, somebody who's sweating even though it's in the midst of winter. Here in Canada, we have long and cold winters. And usually people who suffer from excessive sweating, they sweat by more than one region. It's really rare that somebody has only excessive sweating on their hands. If they have excessive sweating on their hands, they usually have it hands, feet, or underarm, or let's say hands, their forehead and back. So it's usually a multi-zone condition. And people who have hyperhidrosis, this is something that a lot of people don't know or don't want to admit to themselves. They're 5 times more prone to having depression, having severe anxiety, because once you have excessive sweating, you're always thinking about, oh my God, are my feet stinking right now? Or, oh my God, is everybody in the room right now looking at my sweaty t-shirt? Or when I'm going to shake this person's hands, are they going to know that I'm very, very sweaty, or whether are they going to think about me? So it's something that creates anxiety on a day-to-day, and even more than a day-to-day basis, on a hour-to-hour basis.
Wow. Like there's not enough in the world already
exactly.
to worry about.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think you didn't have the problem. It was your friend who had the problem, right?
So I kind of have a bit of excess sweating on my hands, but not to the extent that it was really bothersome for me. But my partner, he had excess sweating very, very, very intensely. And he would tell me that he would never want to go to his friend's home because he was terrified of the fact of taking off his shoes. So he would always stay at home. And he was also an entrepreneur. He was kind of a serial entrepreneur, and he was petrified by the fact that he would do his sales pitch. And while he was doing his sales pitch, the only thing he could think about was, okay, at the end of this sales pitch, I'm going to need to shake the hand of every investor here. So you could imagine how that could affect the quality of your interactions with every human being that you're around. And of course, every time he would go on a date with somebody and the girl would hold his hand at the end of the date, the first reaction would be like, oh, you must be really anxious. this date really went well. Why are you so stressed out? And for him, it's like, no, this is who I am. I'm always stressed. I'm always having excessive sweating. So he told me how it affected his life. And once I realized how hard it was for people who have excessive sweating, it's like I realized that this is a real problem, and the only way to start a business is to try to solve a real problem. If not, it's just creating another, just creating more fluff in the world.
Yeah, find some pain points that you can get rid of.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's great. So your friend Art had come up with it, right? The solution. I'm sure there's some, patents or something with it that you can't tell everything what it is. So is it a cream paste? What is it?
So it's called an iontophoresis device. There's like about maybe 6 or 7 other companies who offer this type of solution. The difference between us and them is that when he figured out how to create one at home, he built one for $20, whereas everything on the market was about $1,000 or $1,200. And he used to live at his parents back then. He was in his 20s, and he was like, I can never afford something that's $1,000. So once we realized that there was a potential to create a machine that's much better than the competition at a fraction of the price, that's when we went all in. And that's how we really are better than our competition, simply because we offer a much better price. And we've been designed this solution by people who actually have hyperhidrosis. So
basically, you guys are not considered a medical device, right?
Yes, so we are a medical device, but it's like very, very safe to use at home. So it's almost like a cosmetic device. But yes,
right. The reason I say that is because a lot of the times they hide behind that to charge what they want to charge, because they say it's a medical device, right? Instead of something else. That's what I was trying to find out.
Yeah.
So, because that's the premium if you say you're a medical device, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But in the end of the day, same thing with pharmaceutical companies or et cetera. It's like, why are you doing this? Is this to maximize your the money that you make at the end of the day, or how many people you help? And for sure, we're not doing this. We're not volunteering, but we're really trying to find the perfect balance between like helping as many people as we can, and of course making some profit, so we don't live still at our parents' place like we used to when we started the business.
Well, just like you said, there's enough people out there. It's a market that you can, the niche, they used to say riches are in the niches, right? So you're helping people to feel better about themselves so that they can do what they want to do. And that's important, because there's nothing worse worrying about sweaty hands or this or that, or go to shake someone's hand, or if you're dating and worrying about, that whole thing. Nothing worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. And, it is a niche product in the sense that it helps 5% of the population. But, 5% of, let's say, Montreal, where the city we're located, is not that much. But 5% of whole Canada, or 5% of the United States, or 5% of the whole world, then you're getting to, some serious numbers for sure.
Well, there's 40 million people in California. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's almost more people than Canada,
Right. Well, I'm just saying, so California is our own country usually. That's where I'm located. So you figure 40 million, 10% of that would be 4 million, right? So you got 2 million in California you can help.
That's it.
Yeah. And that's not talking the rest of the country. So
that's it, exactly.
That's enough people, right?
Absolutely. I could definitely retire on only California.
All right. So are you guys selling all over the world, or are you just selling in Canada?
So we're selling in most countries. Of course, as a medical device, we need to be certified by the local health authorities. So, of course, the FDA in the United States, Health Canada in Canada, in the US, and in Europe, it's called the CE mark. So in most countries, we are certified by the local governments. And the other countries, maybe it's too small, so we didn't want to invest the money for that. But yeah, we are there and available in almost all the countries in the world.
Yeah, so United States, you guys are approved in?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just so people can find it if they need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So as you're going along in your business for the last 5 years, everything went perfect, right?
Oh yeah, it was the dream. No problem at all.
No issues at all. No problem getting approved in other countries, or they didn't want a certain thing, I assume.
Exactly. So when we first started the business, we were like, okay, in 6 months we're going to be on the market, and in 5 years we're going to be in the beach in California hanging out with Ed. But
I'm not by the beach, but nice try. All right.
so every 6 months we were like, okay, and another 6 months we're going to be on the market. And actually it took us almost 3 years to be on the market. And
Wow.
of course, 3 years when you can't sell a machine, those were rough days and rough nights where you didn't know what you were going to do with your life, what you're going to do with the business. You go so far and you're like, I put all this time and energy, and for now it amounted to nothing. Should I stop now, or should I continue? So those were really fun times. And then, the kick of it is when we got the FDA certification in the United States, 2 days later, the whole world stopped because of COVID. So it was like, oh my God, this is great timing. In the end, weirdly enough, COVID really helped out our business for a lot of e-commerce websites. It really, really helped us out tremendously because people's purchasing habits completely changed. Instead of going in the stores to buy stuff, they went online. And as we are almost only an online business, it really helped us out. But yeah, that was super stressful for sure. And I guess like any business and any startup that's starting, the biggest stress is getting money, the liquidities to start. So I was kind of lucky at the beginning to have put a bit of money aside, but it was really rough times. You need to relearn how to budget, but budget in the perspective of, okay, what is the actual bare minimum I could survive off. So
Right.
those were the fun times of the beginning. And when I look at it from now, it's just like, as much as it was painful and as much as it was stressful and as much it gave me so much anxiety, it is also one of the best moments of my life because I had so much freedom. When you're starting off and building a business, it's like you can basically do whatever you want. The sky really is the limit, and in one day you could try completely transform the business, completely reorient your marketing strategy, etc. Whereas now, when you're well implemented, it's like, okay, every time you want to do a decision or do something new, it takes, I wouldn't say week, but it takes days and days. It's like the ship is so much more heavier than when the ship wants to move. It takes so much more time. So there was a lot of naivety. We were so naive. We were so much filled with optimism. And so even though it was so hard, I think it was one of the best moments of my life for sure.
Right, because a lot of people think businesses get successful overnight, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I always tell this story because I had Brian Smith on, the UGG person who brought UGG to America, the boots, UGG boots, and it took him 15 years to get that to a successful company, and he lost it once during the period of that time.
Ouch.
So yeah, so I think people are in, just like you said, are naive. They think that, hey, in 6 months from now, we're going to be retired, yada, yada, yada. Yes, things like that happen, but that's unique situations, right? So how big is, so you went from 2 people, I assume, you and your partner, to how big is the company now?
So we actually started off, we were 6 co-founders, simply because, when you're starting off a business, you need to have volunteers. So you need to have like people to carry the weight and who is going to work for no salary. So of course we just need to say like, okay, you seem to be like somebody who's crazy enough to do all this work for $0. Here's are some shares of the business. So we started off 6 employees who worked for basically nothing for almost 6 months, even longer. And now we're 35 employees here based in Montreal. We have some employees also all across the world who help us out for local customer support. So all across the world, we're maybe like 45 employees, which is completely crazy when you think it, like when I think about it, because it's just like that is like 45 mortgages that we're paying. It's 45 braces that we're paying for their kids. It's like a lot of responsibilities, but at the same time, it's so much fun because most of our employees, they are dedicated to the mission of the business. We always say like, we're not selling another plastic bottle of water. We're actually selling a key to people's happiness, because once they treat their excessive sweating, they are so much more happy. So when our employees see all the reviews that our customers write for our website, it just makes everybody's job so much easier. People are so much more motivated, and they just embark into the mission of the business.
All right. So I want to go back to two things. One about the
Yep.
team that you have to start, because I had a guy on. He said before you figure out your product, you need to have the team in place because the idea you have today might change by the time you get ready to move on with it. And he was adamant about having the people in place in the beginning before you did anything. But before I get there, let's explain how this works. Can you explain how it works?
Yep, absolutely.
For
So
people who don't have excess sweating, we have no idea what we're talking about.
yeah. So I'd really recommend people to go see our website because it's a very visual product. So basically, you simply need to
Website is what?
The website is dermadry.com. So the name of the company, dermadry.com. So basically, it is very, very easy to use. It's called, once again, an iontophoresis device. You simply need to put your hands...
Which for layman's means...
So it's not really... It's pretty much the most simplest way to, to say that word. So ionto means ions. Phoresis is... it means something that is transported via electricity. So... the way that the machine works, you simply need to put your hands, feet, or underarms in contact with a very small electrical current. So that is always scary to say, but it's very, 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 very small current. The electricity is going to go through the surface of the skin. It's going to come and irritate the connection between the nerve and sweat gland. So the nerve won't be able to send any more signal to the sweat gland to tell it to produce sweat. So people who have hyperhidrosis or excessive sweating, they use our machine and they go from, changing their t-shirts 3 times a day to not sweating anymore from 1 week up to 6 weeks. So for these people, a lot of the people say it's like almost a miracle for them. So that
was my next question. How often do you have to treat yourself?
So initially, people need to use it almost daily for 1 to 2 weeks to have the good effects. And once they feel the dryness, then they can only use it as a maintenance treatment, and that is only when the sweat comes back. And in most cases, most of our clients use it only once a week, once every 2 weeks. And in the really amazing, for the best case users, it's only like once a month, once every 2 months. But an average is, once a week, once 2 weeks. But once again, it's like for these people, they were applying deodorant 3 times a day. Their whole life was turning around sweat. And then they don't even think about their sweat from a period, for 2 weeks, they don't even think about their sweat anymore. So it's like, it's a little revolution in their life for sure.
So what you're saying, if you don't want to use antiperspirant, you could use this.
If you don't want to use antiperspirants, if you don't want to use Botox,
you got a new market now. You got a new market there because people want to use deodorant only and not have the aluminum, but they also don't want the sweating. So there's a whole new market you didn't even think about. So there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just thinking because first thing I'm thinking is my wife yells at me, "Don't use antiperspirant because of this, this, right?" And we've been using it forever because I sweat, not majorly, but that's just something I do in certain areas because I'm a bigger guy. I've lifted weights for a long time, and so I got a lot more muscle. I'm warmer normally. So this would be a great thing to do where you wouldn't have to worry about deodorant. You still use, antiperspirant. You could use deodorant so you don't stink, of course, but
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But no, I didn't even, and if it's inexpensive, then it's so much cheaper than buying antiperspirant or deodorant and the side effects. Yeah. So there you go. New market. Yeah.
Boom.
Now you can hit everybody.
That's it. Well, that's basically what we like to say a lot. So a lot of our customers are people who you're using antiperspirants and it's not working for them. So most people who have severe excessive sweating, they're going to use an antiperspirant and they're not going to be happy about their experience. And boom, they're going to try Dermadry. That would be usually the next step. So yeah. The antiperspirant market.
I'm just saying you have a new market to do because I'm telling you right now, the reason you don't want to do antiperspirant, for according to my wife, is because of aluminum and stuff in there will make you, go with all the connection. My wife's a nurse from Kaiser, so she says certain things that I don't know, and so this is, you just got rid of a whole market.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's in the United States. I think it's about an $80 billion market annually, so that is a huge market for sure.
You just have to change it to where it's it looks so easy to use. Not that it's not easy to use, because I don't know it. So anyway, so all right, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say for the team, that is an amazing question to ask. And to be honest, I think that maybe there's two ways to look about it. For us, really, the team really was inspired by the mission. So it started with an amazing product and people who believe in the product. I don't think that we would have been able to take the same set of people and start a new business with a new type of product. I think we were really inspired by the mission of helping people with excessive sweating. So I'm not sure if in all the cases we need to start with the people instead of starting with the product or the mission. But it is absolutely true that if you don't get the right people around the table and you don't complement yourself in specific ways, then there's going to be a lot of dead weight, and that's going to, the companies are not going to flourish the way it's supposed to do.
Yeah, well, and also it's, if I know from my industry, if you don't have the right people and you try to get busier, you fail. And then nobody wants to use you. So the issue, that's why it's important for me to have a team. And sometimes we have, a little extra time for the team, and sometimes we have no time because we're so crazy. So, but that's what you have to have, that type of, amount of people, because you don't want to start something and then go, oh man, we need 20 people, or we need 10 people, or we need 5 people, because it's growing so fast, and it's hard to find really good people who want to work. I don't know how it is there, but it's really bad in the United States right now.
It's so hard. It's so hard to find the people that is especially as motivated as you are. Like, well, for us, of course, it's our life.
You're never going to find people as motivated as you are as an owner. That's a different person, all right?
Yeah, that's it. And
you got to give them ownership. You have to be an ESOP, employee-owned company, for them to be motivated like that.
That's it, exactly. And it's really hard at the beginning of the business to understand that. We were like, why aren't you giving your body and soul to this mission of the company? It's helping other people. But of course, it's hard. There's also this financial aspect of it. But absolutely, finding the right people is the most important part once you have the good product. Because if you don't have the good product, then you won't be able to make any sales, and then you won't be able to get the money to hire the right people. So for us, it's always started off with a good product.
All right. So what's next for this?
Yeah. So the next thing for Dermadry is, as you said, is to become the main alternative to deodorants, to antiperspirants. For us,
so you're already going there. I thought of something you already were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, we want to become, a household name. We want everybody to, instead of saying like, oh, I have an important meeting today, I need to put some antiperspirants. It's like, no, I have an important meeting this week. I'm going to use Dermadry once or twice, and then I'm going to feel fresh. I'm going to feel comfortable during the meeting. And of course, to do that, we need to be more affordable, which is something we're definitely working on. Right now, but
you said, is it still $20, or is it more than that? How much is it?
It's more than $20. It's about $489.
Okay.
So it's a bit more. It's a bit much more.
So it's a few cases of antiperspirant.
Yeah, exactly. So of course, it's bringing down the price of the machine, and then of course it's just a distribution game. It's being in every Target, it's being in every Walmart, it's being in every Walgreens, which is what we want to work on definitely in the next years, because as you said, people are starting to get afraid of antiperspirants. Long term, it does cost more than a machine, and you won't see as much of a good and positive results when you're using antiperspirants than when you're using our Dermadry machine. So our ambition is nothing less to be in almost every household across the world.
Now, is there any downside for doing it and then go doing a triathlon or exercising if you're not sweating?
Yeah. Well, as a joke, we always say like the only downside is to be more confident, having a better social life. But of course, there are some side effects. People will have a bit of redness in their hands, feet, or underarms if they use the machine too much, or if their skin is too sensitive. But what people need to understand is like you still are sweating from the rest of your body. You're just not sweating from the place that is problematic. So your body can still regulate your body temperature via sweat. It's simply that you're not going to sweat in the areas where you're sweating too much, such as your hands, feet, or underarm.
Gotcha. Because that was just, if you do this on your underarms, not, because you just do it instead of antiperspirant. I was just curious if it was there. Because I know you sweat all over because I've seen my shirts. Yeah, but it was just, I just didn't know if there was any studies or anything that you had to worry about. So
No. So people will still be able to sweat, which is very important. It's a very important bodily function. But so some of the side effects are like, for the first time as people alive, they're like, I needed to use skin lotion because my hands were too dry. And for these people who had, their hands,
that's a side effect.
Yeah, just to give your listeners an
That's
idea.
natural. That's how natural people have. They got to use lotion.
That's it. That's it. Just to give you an idea, like we have some customers who send us videos where they put their hand over a glass of water and they can fill the glass of water with their sweat of their hands within 15 to 20 minutes. So these are severe
Wow.
cases that can completely handicap your life. It's the only thing you think about during the whole day.
Yeah, I mean that's all because you're worried about it. So most of these people try to work from home, I assume.
Yeah. COVID has been a blessing for people with excessive sweating. Like not shaking hands anymore, keeping your distance. It's been a really blessing for these communities.
Well, also your product has been too.
Yeah, exactly. Especially your product.
Yeah. So don't just talk about COVID. Now you have a product that helps people with excessive sweating, and eventually will help everybody not to get rid of antiperspirant to come out sometime today. All right. Yeah. Before we go, Matthew, anything else you want to add?
So one of the biggest problems with people who have excessive sweating, it's called the taboo condition. People are so ashamed of it that they don't talk about it to anybody. It is one of the few, well, not, it's one of the many diseases that people are so ashamed that they don't talk about it to their loved ones, their friends, or even their doctor. So one of the main reasons why we're doing podcasts like this is simply because we want to inform people that there is a solution out there, and that the best way for them to be able to find, help is to talk about it. If they don't talk about it, then they're never going to be able to find help. And I think this, it slides into a metaphor and, the greater schemes of things that you need to be able to feel comfortable about talking about the negative things around your life. If not, you're never going to be able to solve them. So if you feel more open about talking about your excessive sweating or other conditions, then you'll be able to find a solution. Maybe the solution won't be Dermadry, but as long as you find something against your excessive sweating, then I feel like this podcast has served his purpose for sure.
Why can't it be Dermadry?
We hope it's Dermadry.
Yeah. It's the same thing I say. It's like, if you don't get help here, get help somewhere. Exactly. There was an old commercial that had to deal with abuse of drugs and stuff, and it's like, if you don't get help here, get help somewhere. And so I always use that, and that's basically, if you don't get help, you need to get help wherever it is. And excessive sweating, there's no reason to live with it. So reach out, check out the things that are out there. Go check out dermadry.com and see if it works for you. Now, is there can you try it, and then if it doesn't work, send it back, because it's going to work. But
yeah. Well, we do have almost a 98% success rate, but if it doesn't work, we offer a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, because of course it's so weird to buy a machine that you simply put your hands feed in water with electricity, that we didn't offer this 100-day satisfaction guarantee. I think a lot of people would be afraid to buy it, but yeah, of course, if it doesn't work for you, it should work. Then of course you will get your free money or your money back.
All right, Matthew, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it, and getting so I could know about Dermadry, because I read on it, but I really didn't understand it, because I don't have excessive sweating, but the other part of it I'll use all the time. So
thank you so much, and thank you for letting me for your listeners to hear about this as well.
All right, stay right there. I will be right back. And again, if you guys like what we do here, like I always say, just share and follow. Thank you.